Dr. Eddie Ramirez. I'm the Health Ministries Director for the Pennsylvania Conference. I am in Sydney, Australia, and the goal of this video is to inspire other groups and congregations that may be struggling to see how can God solve the revival of a literally dying church. I have with me a very good friend of mine, Katie, originally from New Zealand. We actually have done projects together in America and in New Zealand in the past. And this church that we're recording this was a church that experienced a tremendous revival. And let's go back to the very beginning. Tell us a little bit about the background of this church.
Well, okay, Dr. Eddie, I'm actually an import. I am a Kiwi, a New Zealander, and so I was called to this position here. So I don't really know the background of, like, you know, when they dug the first spade, the soil, to actually build the church, although one of the people we met on the doors, it was his grandfather that actually did that. But I can go back just a little bit. I know that this church, for a number of years, has been, it used to be a thriving church years ago, and then it went to a Croatian church. The Croatian folk took over the church, and they were thriving as well. They had many people here. They had their families. They were immigrants, and you know, there were children, there were youth. It was a thriving church. But over the years, their children have grown. They've gone away, and when I got called into this church, there was literally just 14 people, most of them elderly, who were left here. And to their credit, they made a decision that they would turn it over to, they would give up their national language, they would give up their own cultural church, they would make it an English-speaking church. And to me, they're heroes for doing that. That's not an easy decision.
That's right.
And so they did that, and they called my husband and I, and there was one other Bible worker, and we began our work here in 2019.
And tell us a little bit about this church. What size of church is this one?
Well, it's the sanctuary here would seat comfortably 250 people.
So you had 250 people, yet only 14 people were remaining here. I heard conversations that even the conference was thinking about closing the project and so forth.
Well, prior to anything to do with this church, yes, apparently it caused them a few problems, and it wasn't a happy church. In fact, it was known to be probably the worst church in the conference.
Okay.
So mentioning that one might actually give people some real hope that even the worst one can be turned around by the grace of God.
And you know, one of the key persons here in this story is Marco. We'll be interviewing him later on. And tell me a little bit about Marco and a dream that he had.
Well, he was at one of our meetings the other day. He was telling us, he said, folks, you know, 25 years ago, as the elders and the leadership of the church here, they were despairing because they knew that it was going down in its membership. And so they did something quite remarkable. In fact, God always calls intercessors before he does a great work. You read the Bible, that's the way it rolls. And so they met regularly at this church at 5:30 in the morning, and they would come here and pray and ask God to do something. Well, in the middle of all that, he had a dream, he was telling us the other day. And he said, in this dream, he said he came to the front door of the church, and he literally could not get into it because there were so many people. And the other day, when you spoke here, Eddie, I went up to him and I said, we had 145 people for dinner. I went up to Marco and I said, I think God just came good on that dream.
Well, let's go a little bit back. So then, through the general conference, or how do you guys got called to come here to this church?
Well, it was very interesting. Like I said, the leadership of this church recognised that it was dying. So they decided to give up their, national Croatian church type, what they were doing. And then they grouped together and they decided to involve, how are we going to do this? So they involved Gary Kent from The Incredible Journey, and they also involved Adventist World Radio. And that was the connection to us, because my husband and I had trained under Pastor Louis Torres at Mission College of Evangelism in 2008, and Pastor Torres was quite insistent that we be part of this whole thing. My husband and I just lived in rural New Zealand at the time, and to be honest, we had no intention to move to Sydney. But where God calls is where you need to go.
So then you guys make that decision, you feel that God is calling you, and you move here to Sydney. And what were the first steps that started happening to start giving a little bit of momentum to this church?
Well, as a Bible worker, and I have actually been working for, now it's about 14 years as a Bible worker. I've been employed since 2008. As a Bible worker, I know that we need to, there's some tools in our kit. In our church reviving, church planting kit. There's certain things we have to do to be able to revive or to grow a church. But this one, I really thought, man, what have I signed up to here? This is a huge challenge. 14 people in a big church, big beautiful church, and so I knew my the tools of my trade basically as a Bible worker were to use health programs extensively to meet the community. So we started with some letterboxing, we started with some door knocking, and we started with health programs. So very fast off the bat, we did a depression recovery program, and we also did cooking classes. They were started virtually immediately.
And also I like this commitment that the leadership has. You guys have this prayer time every day, isn't it?
Every day, 7 o'clock in the morning and 7 o'clock in the evening, our ministry team, who are made up of our Bible workers and of our head elder, and sometimes our pastors hail into that. They're a bit more busy with a lot of things they have to do. But every morning at 7 o'clock, we pray together. Because, the truth is, nothing happens without prayer.
That's right. And I had the privilege of getting involved here in the equation 2 years ago. Tell us a little bit about the background there when Pastor Torres came. I'm also a graduate from Pastor Torres, so yeah, we have that also in common. Tell me a little bit about that project, that part of the project.
Well, we were under Adventist World Radio and The Incredible Journey. It was decided to run a Bible school because the idea was to get the Bible workers out in the community. They've got young legs and they can go and they can get all the door work done. So that was the whole idea. The unfortunate problem was that in February, March of 2020, of course, COVID struck, and that closed the Bible school basically overnight.
But let's talk a little bit about the program that took place. I came here, I was speaking, and I was pleasantly surprised to see so many visitors coming night after night. How many people were coming, and how do you guys got all that group of people?
Well, actually, to be honest with you, Eddie, that's another tool of the trade, is that you need to invite people that are going to be able to bring people from the community, something to actually get them to. So I suggested you, of course, and you came willingly, and you came and spoke. And you've got to remember here, we're only a few months, just a few short months, very embryo into starting. Yeah. And we had something like, I think, as I remember, about 60 to 80 people. Right. We were holding them every single night.
What I remember is that the members here were shocked to see so many visitors in their church that used to be 14-member church.
Exactly. And you know, I do have to mention the hard yards on the doors. We had to get out there in our communities. We took flyers, like the flyer here I've got. We put flyers of you. We said, you know, you're coming. Hey, there's a doctor coming. We were in this community. We literally flooded it with flyers and with door work. You've got to go and meet your community.
And you know, I remember that the group was growing night after night.
It was.
Every night we would have more people and more people and more people.
It was exciting to see.
So then, by the end, you know, as you mentioned, we had 80 visitors coming here to the health program. And my mission was over. I went back. And then you guys have some challenges because that's exactly when the pandemic hit. Yet the Lord used things in a way that there were even fruits as a result of that. Tell us that story.
That's remarkable, you know, because when you see something you've worked so hard for and you're building it up from absolutely nothing, it's like growing a little plant and it just peaks up above the soil and it gets up and it starts to just put those little shoots out and suddenly something comes along and goes smash. And it was really, really difficult. But, you know, we regrouped and everything looked like it was going to stop. Absolutely everything. And the Bible school closed and... it looked like game over. But we regrouped and we went to social media platforms. In fact, Australia locked us all in, like the world did.
Very strict in the whole world.
Very strict. And we were all locked inside. And so I decided that since people were locked at home and they couldn't even go to work, a lot of them, I decided that's a good time to do a lot of Bible studies. So I got a whole lot of people, put them onto something I called Lockdown Fast Track. And instead of doing a Bible study a week, I did a Bible study every day with them. And after 6 weeks, we'd done a whole series. And when we reopened again, of course, you know, a number of those people, 6 of them were ready for baptism. And but not only that, I continued to run health programs online. In fact, even when I went back to New Zealand, I was still working remotely for this church. And I used to run cooking classes from my own kitchen. And I've run programs like Learning to Tell Yourself the Truth. That's part of the Depression Recovery Program. And I have run those programs online. So I continued to do that all the way through. And it's been a tremendous experience because weekly, the church was growing. And when we reopened after COVID, of course, you know, there was a lot of people that came to us and they were ready to come to us. And so COVID actually did us a bit of a favor, strangely.
In fact, you're one of the first churches to open, I understand, isn't it? As soon as the
we certainly
government
were.
gave permission.
Yeah, we certainly were. So, we opened our doors. So when we were allowed 5 people, we had 5 people. And when we were allowed 10, we had 10. And I said to the members, stay at home. We want the new people.
That's right.
you guys just stay at home and worship at home. My husband, actually, we were due to fly out. We were abandoning the ship as well. But my poor husband broke his leg, you know, like very unusually, providentially. And he was operating live streams. We had to learn all this. I mean, we aren't tech savvy. We haven't grown up in that area. But we had to learn all these things. It was a big learning curve for us. And my husband was operating cameras here. And so whenever the government said we were allowed a certain amount of people, we just had visitors. And we just kept bringing them in and bringing them in. We fed them and we continued to work with them. But it's been such a privilege because God has done remarkable miracles in this church. If we will simply follow the blueprint, and that is you've got to weave health programs into that whole. The science of the thing is actually health programs and good speakers, and you've got to keep that going so that you get interest in the community to come.
And now you guys have what I call a little army of Bible workers. Tell me a little bit about them.
Well, we have got an army of Bible workers. We're always, actually, I have to say this is about God and it's about prayer, because we were always saying, hey, give us some more workers, please send us somebody else. And then God added one of the ladies and then added another one. And now we've got 2 youth workers. Very recently, we've taken on a young lady that speaks Chinese Mandarin. And she's an absolute asset, because every time you go out in the community, and quite a few of the people, the houses you knock on the door, Chinese community. So suddenly she goes, oh, ni hao. And the way she goes, she's able to talk to them where we aren't. So we've got one guy from Papua New Guinea, and there's 5 volunteer Bible workers at this church at the moment. So we give our time and our energy and the giftings God's given us, and we work for a stipend, and away we go.
And tell me a little bit about their work that they do. You were mentioning how many hours or days you guys go door to door?
Well, door-to-door work is actually a big component, because there's always somebody else you're going to meet from the community. We are totally seeker-focused here. So the idea is, get out there and meet them. They're not going to come to the door, So first of all, we have to generate something to bring them to, and that's why we generate a flyer. So our Bible workers, each of us has giftings, maybe in a different area. So one lady runs a boot camp on a Sunday morning. Somebody else runs a Journey to Wholeness program, which is an addiction program. I run cooking classes. We do Bible studies. We do youth programs. We do anything programs, actually. If we hear of something that's fantastic. Oh, we have a Chinese ministry here. 2 days they come down and play table tennis and have English classes. So this church is basically open every single day of the week.
And I came here a week ago, and we started with a little dinner with the doctor. I recently wrote a book, Pandemic Busters, and now we're offering that to the people coming here and so forth. Tell me a little bit about that dinner with the doctor. How many people came, what type of groundwork you guys did before that?
Well, you asked me the question, how much door work are we doing? Each of us spends around 20 hours a week on the door. So there's 5 of us. Work it out, do the sums, 100 hours a week in this community. That's phenomenal. And so we team up 2 by 2. We hope, we try to get members of the church to come with us so that we can double up our teams. But the dinner to the doctor was actually an amazing experience. We went to the community with a flyer. And something, it astounded us as to the results of that, because, you take your flyers around the community, and here's our policy, is that people are far more likely to come if you eyeball them and say, hi, I'm Katie, and we're a church from this community, and this is what we're doing. We're having a dinner to the doctor. If I say that to you at the door, that's simply my pitch, then we're talking. And I'm able to tell you, hey, this doctor's worked in lifestyle centres for 28 years, He's a great guy, he's coming from Pennsylvania, and da-da-da-da-da. So then you're likely to come because I've talked to you. But if I simply put that in your letterbox, that, for the most part, that becomes just their next week's rubbish.
That's right.
So we like to get to the doors. We do some letterboxing, and we do some double letterboxing. But we also do a lot of personal invites. So if we have a special guest speaker, that's how we approach it. And we worked very hard up to your arrival, Eddie.
Pre-arrival.
And I have to say, the results were astounding. They astounded us. Do you know why? Because a huge proportion of the 145 people that came were straight from the community. They were not invited by anyone except those flyers or us at the doors. And so that was phenomenal to us.
Yeah, that was great to see so many people there. It was so many people. People were very receptive. Basically the program consisted, the pastor spoke at the beginning, a few words, then I spoke, and then we had an opportunity to chat with the people there. And the goal was to invite them to the next stage program. Tell us about the next program that was already planned.
Well, the interesting thing is we're working to an evangelistic cycle here. So it's all very strategic, and we start, like planting a garden, we start at the beginning, we do our health programs and things, but it's all working towards our harvesting campaign, which is an evangelistic program that we run at the end of our cycle, which is about 6 months long. So you, Eddie, have just arrived right before our evangelist arrives next Friday. So we were then able to invite every single person at that dinner to the doctor along to our evangelist as well. And then they've come with you all the way through the week. We've seen them growing, haven't we? They're inviting
this week
friends.
we have meetings every evening, and it was nice and packed, this church.
It was packed. And so we were able to invite them, and hopefully they will come across to they'll bridge across, because we've used health. That's got their attention. They've come for that. If we were to go straight into evangelism, that it wouldn't hold the same interest for them to come. But we've provided something they are interested in, and then we've invited them. And I had conversations with several people today, and I popped the evangelistic flyer under their nose, and I said, "Are you coming?" They said, "Yes, we're coming." So it works.
And I notice you guys have a calendar in your displaying there in your bulletin board. And there were multiple events throughout the year. This is not just the only event.
No. And that's very strategic too. Because you see, if I'm going to spend all this time on doors with the other Bible workers, if we have to have something happening for people to come to. And you can't have that 6 months out. Because if I go to the doors with flyers, I say, "Oh, well, in 3 months' time, Dr. Eddie Ramirez is coming." That's no good. I've got to go there in a week's time, he's coming. So we strategically plan to have events dotted throughout that 6-month cycle, so that each one of those we actually, we invite a speaker for, or, something interesting that the community would like, and then we have a special weekend or a special week like we've had with you. And you're the icing on the cake for us, Eddie.
And let me share with you, you guys have this very nice brochure that you made, and it is full of activities here. Let me just read here briefly what it says here. You have the boot camp on Sundays at 9 a.m. Tell us a little bit briefly there, what's this about?
Well, one of our Bible workers is a fitness fanatic.
Okay.
And so that's her thing, and she's out there. She's 60 years old, but man, she can really, she's teaching the young ones how to get fit on a Sunday morning.
And then you have Journey to Wholeness on Mondays at 10 a.m.
That's an addiction program. It's the one that the church, the General Conference addiction program. That's tremendous too. We have people really helped by that, and we're able to invite people that are, have addictions in our communities.
That's right.
And they've got a place. It's very, very similar. It is a 12-step program. It's very, very similar to an AA program. It's run slightly differently. But one of our ladies, one of our Bible workers, heads that up.
And this is a general conference program, which means anybody has access to this. If they want to run this type of program, they have access to that program.
And they have tremendous training for it, and they show you how to do it, and they've got all the workbooks and everything. So, we try to aim at sort of like lots of things in the community, not just one. If you have... if you just have one ball to throw at it, then, if you miss, you miss.
Limiting yourself. And then you have table tennis on Tuesdays and Wednesday at 2 p.m.
We do, and that's along with English classes and card-making classes, which one of the ladies is fabulous at doing. And anybody in our community, like the elderly or people on their own, they're a bit lonely, we can say, hey, come down to the card-making class.
And then... you have a prayer meeting every Wednesday at 7 p.m.
We do. That's a church prayer meeting.
And then you have Meals That Heal on Thursday at 7 p.m.
We do, that's our cooking class. And back to our prayer meeting, by the way, there's 3 types of prayer meetings that go on in this church, because like I say, we're big on prayer. And if you're big on prayer, that means you get big results, because there's a 6 o'clock prayer meeting and also a Wednesday night prayer meeting and the ministry team prayer meeting at 7 each morning and 7 each night. So there you go. We pray it up.
And then you have a care group Fridays at 6:30.
We do. That's just, in our community, just like a social time with also a little bit of spiritual and some singing and some food and a bit of fun together. So that hits a real spot in a lot of people's lives as well.
And also you have a Bible school Saturdays at 9:30.
Well, that's actually a fancy word for Sabbath school.
Okay, so that's.
But they can come to that
right.
one if they like.
And then you have the weekly church service. You announce it here in the bulletin. And then also you're announcing here a coming soon depression recovery program.
Yes, we do.
How many times a year or cycle are you running that?
Ideally, we'd like to run 2 of them, but it does depend on staffing and ability, availability of staff in that program time. We definitely do 1 a year at this church. When we're asked to, we do personal coaching, or we can take a small group on Zoom.
And then finally you have here a Forgive to Live program also that you're planning sometime in the future.
We pop those ones into the brochure, because if we get interest in it and there's several people that want to do it, then we pop the program on.
Yep.
So it doesn't, the ones that are in there, most of those we're running, but it's also saying, hey, if you want this one, call us, and then 2 or 3 people ring and we say, okay, we'll schedule it for Tuesday night, away we go.
And then this brochure is very well done. It actually has QR codes in the back with the church website, with the YouTube page of the church, with the Facebook page of the church, and a meetup also.
It is, yes.
So in that way, they're able to connect through different ways. Maybe they didn't come to the program, but they're actually connecting and enjoying some of this in their home, and
That's
God
right.
is planting those seeds that in the future they're going to give growth. So
You have to be, you have to be kind of, you have to market what you've got, what you're doing, because if you're not going to market it, you might have something fabulous, but if you don't tell the community you're doing it, it's a waste of time. So you've got to hit, all these platforms that you can, like taking brochures, and talking to the people at the door, or actually going on all the social media platforms. Just hit the whole lot, and
So
some
then,
will come.
as you can see, some of the things that we have learned, prayer needs to be the basis and the planning.
Not negotiable.
That's right. You need to have a nice, committed leadership team.
Absolutely.
How do you guys work together with your pastor?
Very well. We have a senior pastor here and an associate pastor, and unfortunately they're really busy with other churches. They've got 3 other churches other than us.
Which sometimes becomes a blessing, because that means the members need to be taking that responsibilities.
I think they think, well, we've got 5 Bible workers there. Let's just leave them to it. So, but they're very busy guys, and they're very supportive, and
That's
they're right behind everything we do.
And then another thing that I can see here is that this building is being used pretty much every week, every day of the week.
Every single day of the week, there is something going on in this
So
building.
in that way, you're able to meet the multiple needs that this community may potentially have.
That's it. So we have to say, all glory to God for this, because seriously, our congregation from 14 3 years ago in a very difficult church with a ethnic origin, and turning it all around, we have a congregation of between 80 and 100 that come regularly to worship
Every Sabbath.
with us every Sabbath.
Another thing that I notice is the weekly potluck, isn't it? You guys have...
Well, that's the other not negotiable thing. We decided when we got here, it's my own training and my own experience in church planting says if you do not sit down around a table with food, you won't get to know those people or connect to them. It's not good enough just to have the service and say, well, bye, have a great week. You've got to sit and chat.
That's right.
And so we have a potluck every single week at this church. We have a team of very committed, amazing ladies that head up the kitchen, and every week they pump out. I literally bucket loads of food from their kitchens, and they bring it here. And we've always got, 12 basketfuls left over. That's the truth. And it's in the fridge for us Bible workers all week. But the amazing thing is you can't do it without hospitality ministry. It really is it's a real pillar of being able to hold them here and, just really get to know them and connect.
So do you think this model can be applied in other places?
Well, I think it's worth repeating. In actual fact, Dr. Eddie, I'd have to say it is the blueprint. Because if we will simply follow these traditional methods, that we're told that the health message is the right arm of our ministry, of our message. So get out there and use it. Utilize it in the churches. People are interested in health. When I was a child, they weren't interested. But now, it's big. It's absolutely huge out there, and they'll come to anything that you've got that's going on for health.
And as an example of this, let me inject this. I had as I mentioned, the privilege of helping you guys when you were in New Zealand.
Oh, exactly.
And we're working there with Pastor Gordon, and to me that was so inspiring. See, I'm Latino, my background. And when you go to a Spanish church, usually you see this nice combination, elderly people, middle-agers, and then lots of children. That's what you see on a Spanish church. But many of the churches in America, in New Zealand, in Australia, in Europe, many times they tend to shift very elderly people only and so forth. Yet I was very surprised to see the church you guys were working together with Pastor Gordon. It was a New Zealander church. This was not a Latino church. Yet you would find lots of young people, lots of elderly, lots of middle age, very nice combination of all kinds of ages. And they were following a similar model, isn't it? So, I remember there, doing some outreach and so forth, also with very, very good response, which, gives us this encouragement that we can help grow our churches utilizing the health message to open those doors. And take advantage. Most conferences, most divisions have a health ministries director. Contact them, find the resources that are available, put them to use, and you will see the blessing that this becomes. And to me, this is very inspiring to see how a literally 14-person church that was really, really struggling, today is a nice, thriving church of 100+ people, plus God willing, some people will make some decisions in the next evangelistic meeting. Amen. And we will see how God is leading things and so forth. So I invite anybody that is listening to this to pray about it and start applying these principles that we just talked about, and you will see how God can bless tremendously.
Amen to that, Dr. Eddie.
Well, thank you so much, Katie, for taking the time to share this such vital and important information, especially at the time in history that we are living in. And we both of us agree that we need to be busy working because time is short.
About our Father's business.
So it's a blessing to be there doing that, experience that, live that, and communicate this. May God bless you. Thank you so much for listening to this.
Thank you, Dr. Eddie.